All right, it's been a little while, but we are back. It's Wednesday night. It is time for Conversations with Cougars, and we have got a doozy of a show tonight. The self-proclaimed Soul Patrol, the heart and soul, in my opinion, of that 81 state team. We've got number 34, John Kite at free safety. We've got number 40, Tim Pye Whaley at cornerback. Leon Morris, number 7, strong safety. And Kerchal Byrd, number 32 at cornerback. Gentlemen, how are y'all doing this evening? It's so good to see you all.
Hey, we're doing good.
Excellent.
Good.
Good to see you.
Well, John will get his audio or his video, his audio in just a minute. Somebody tell me, where did Soul Patrol, where'd that team nickname for the defensive backfield come from? Who came up with that?
I think it was Leon.
Oh no, it wasn't me.
It wasn't. So,
No, that was handed to us by one of the coaches. I can't remember Robert Johnson or.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're right.
But I was gonna say it came from you, Kerchal. Because Kerchal more like the leader of the group. We always followed his lead. They were so competitive all the time, you know. Whether we're in the weight room, on the football field, it was a good way that we competed against one another. Yeah.
Let me send James a note. He's having a hard time with the audio. Let me ask you guys this while I'm doing that. Did you all grow up? Now James is with us. Hey, James. No, I guess he's frozen. Did you guys grow up in the same community as elementary and middle school kids? Did y'all know each other back then?
I knew Tim back then. I didn't know Kerchal back then, but I mean, Kerchal lived like maybe a block and a half away from where I live, and Tim was probably like 2 blocks in the other direction. So,
what elementary school did you guys go to?
I went to Stringer Street Elementary School under Coach Johnny Potter. That was my inception as far as learning the organized sports of football under Coach Potter, and yeah, that's why I started at.
Yeah, so did I. I started at Stringer Street under Coach Potter. Yep.
Yeah.
What about you, bud?
I ended up going to the same school. My mom was a teacher, so I think the first couple of years, Rose Hill. So wherever she went, wherever she taught school, that's where I went. So Rose Hill throughout most of it, and then I think Grandview.
Yeah. Yep. Grandview and then back to Cover.
Yeah.
Right. It was Stringer Street, then Grandview, and then we went to Carver, and then they went to Northview.
And back then it was a junior high, wasn't it? 7th through 9th, or was it middle school at that point?
Yeah, junior high.
And in what grade did you guys start at Northview?
7th grade. Oh, was it 7th grade?
Ninth.
You started in 9th grade?
Right. So our 8th grade year was the last year of junior high school. And then our 8th grade year, sorry. Our 8th grade year was the last year of junior high school. And then our 9th grade year was the first, implementation of the.
So you guys were in the first 9th grade class in 78.
Yeah.
Correct.
You were in the first graduating class in 82.
Right.
Exactly.
Well, you guys have got to take us to 8th grade at Carver, and all the talk and all the coaches starting to talk you up about coming over to Northview. Did you have any chance, and was there a possibility you may end up at Dothan High, or had they definitively defined the boundaries of where you guys lived or what school you went to, meaning you were coming to Northview?
For us, it was the boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
It was the boundaries, because if you lived on the other side of the street from me, everybody that lived on, like, say, Eagle Road, which was less than a quarter of a mile, not even that away, went to Dothan High. Mm-hmm. So there was a boundary down Old Webb Road.
Well, was it an exciting time for you guys knowing you were coming to a brand new high school, or were y'all not excited and you were hoping you were still going to go to Dothan?
Well, I was excited because I played, I ended playing football with String Strip Bulldog. I think I was in 7th grade. In my 8th grade year, I didn't play football, period, with Carver Junior High. I think Kerchal did. And that 9th grade year going into Northview, I was excited about the new school, going to the 9th grade, participating, in the different sports, whether it's basketball, football, or baseball. So yes, I was excited about going to the new high school.
Right. Leon, what about you, bud?
But see, as far as at Carver, I went out for the team, but the coach didn't like me. So I mean, I was too small. I guess he thought I was too small, and he ran me off. He ran me off then, and I just didn't play until the 9th grade. So
wow, Kerchal.
At Carver, 8th grade was my 2nd year ever playing football. We played once against the Bulldogs. Tim was a legend for the Bulldogs. I remember when we got ready to play the Bulldogs, they were saying, "Oh, Fatso hit somebody so hard he broke his leg." So we were scared. But my 8th grade year was the first year that my mom didn't let me hardly do anything as far as sports. She thought it was too rough. But she gave in my 8th grade year, and I played for Coach Morrison and Coach Tribute. So, right. and also that same year, I think the 7th grade year was Dwight Jones.
Wow.
Show. Yeah. I didn't play with Dwight, but but Dwight Jones and a couple of names that came from there, Brett Gerber, people like that.
Yeah.
Well, fellas, better late than never. Number 34 has entered the chat. Hey, James Kite, how are you, John?
I'm doing fine. How you guys doing?
Hey.
John.
Hey. Great to see
friend.
What's going on?
Always late, but he will show up.
Yeah. What's going on, man?
Not much, man. Not much.
Well, John, you're gonna have to watch the first 6 or 7 minutes because they were throwing you under the bus left and right. But we'll keep moving on.
I believe it.
Fellas, y'all got a crowd already. Let me tell you who's in the house with us. We got Charles Bronson. We got Coach Randy Hicks. We got Joseph Johnson, Jason Mullins, Patrick Fitch, Shirley C. We got a whole host of folks in here already for y'all.
Wow.
Hey, guys.
John, let me come to you. Are you still with us? I don't know if his connection is strong. Can you hear us, John?
I can hear you.
Okay, to the extent that you can. Where did you go to middle school, bud? Most of these guys, we were just talking about middle school and before you came over to Northview. Where would you grow up? What street or what neighborhood?
I grew up really in Mike Ray Homes and Railroad Avenue. I went to junior high school and played with Coach Randy Hicks there. Played running back for a little while. I was pretty good, and he put me on defense.
That's where you're supposed to be on defense.
I kind of love running the ball, though.
Guys, as 9th graders, when we all come out of junior high or middle school in Dothan, you're either going to one high school or the other back then. You guys had the privilege of coming to a brand new high school. And I don't know how much of the equipment was new versus what was donated and used. I don't know how Coach Parrish put all that together. But what was the vibe like with you guys coming together with your new teammates, new classmates? And did you have any thoughts as 9th graders? This has the making of a pretty good team as we get a little older. Did that even enter the picture that early in your 9th grade year in football?
Really that 9th grade year was kind of like over into our sophomore year. I remember Coach Parrish telling us that before we leave, that we had a chance to do something special at Northview, something that had never been done in Dothan before. I remember that. I have forgotten all about that, you know, until me and Tim spoke with the team last year, a year before one.
Last year.
And that came back to my remembrance then, you know. And he just told us, you know, if we put in the work, that we had to put in the work. And we were willing to do that, you know, and it all paid off in the end.
Well, John, I hate to tell you this, but Coach Hicks says the reason why you got moved over to defense is you couldn't remember the offensive plays. Kerchal, what do you remember about that 9th grade, that early getting to know all your new teammates and friends and all that?
Oh, yeah. Go ahead.
Oh, for me?
Yeah,
John? Okay. Yeah, for me, I remember the 9th grade year. I think they let us go over there for like for the spring for spring, what do you call it? Spring practice. Mm-hmm. And I got introduced to the weights, and I remember coming back and doing a tackle drill, and it was a day. It's like the weights really helped. But I was more of a fan. Because just going to the games, and I think at that time, the White Jones, Steve Hentz, those guys were, I think that's right, Steve Hentz. Those guys in the back, it was just fun watching those guys play. And actually, when I went there in 9th grade year, I was a running back. I was running back at Carver, running back in the 9th grade. And then
I started to bring that up.
Yep. They told me, well, they didn't have to tell me. I could see the writing on the wall. I said, there's no way I'm gonna take a start position from Dwight or Steve, and then behind them was Greg Mathis and Reggie Jones.
Yes.
So I was third on the depth chart. So I think Coach Griffin convinced me to move over to defensive back. So yeah. But I remember, yeah, it was exciting. It was exciting for me. And of course that was would have been my 3rd year of my life ever playing football. So I was very excited. I always loved football. My mom just she thought it was too rough.
Leon, did you know you were going to play football in 9th grade? Was that part of your plan, or how did that?
That was always the plan, because I mean, me and Tim, when Tim lived obviously across the way from me, they would come through. He lived in Johnson Homes, and they would come through my little neighborhood, or whatever you call it,
right,
and pick me up on the way to go to Carver to play football every Saturday dang near. You know, the whole crew would come and pick me up, and we'd go play. You know, yes. So I knew that when we got to the next school, I was gonna play for sure. I mean, they came and got me, and I played.
Wow. Tim, was football always your main sport?
It was, and I keep going back to the mixture of when I played with String Tree Bulldogs under Coach Johnny Potter, Coach Flower, Harold Thomas. Y'all remember Spanking Dad, Harold Thomas, those guys. And it was such a new sport, because like Leon was saying, we always played sandlot football. But now being on a structured, organized team gave me a sense of stability and discipline. And so leaving String Street Bulldogs and going to Northview and being coach under Coach Kirkland and Coach Tribute, and being around Leon and Kerchal, Brent Gilbert, Joseph Johnson, I mean, I can name the guys, and that was new to me, and it was like something great is going to happen. And like John was saying earlier, that I remember Coach Parrish came into the locker room and told us that we're going to win the state championship when we in the next 4 years. And like John said, we put in the hard work. We ran, we lift weights. Y'all remember the protein shakes and going to the cafeteria to take the drinks?
Yeah.
So, remember that, Kerchal? So,
yeah.
So yes, and we end up actually winning the state championship. So yes, I was excited, and Coach Hicks was always there for me. I'm kind of jumping ahead of the game. I remember getting hurt, he's the defense coordinator, and I'm down and I look up, here come Coach Hicks, always on the field, picking us up and bringing it to the sideline. I mean, he was just an amazing coach to be around. So yeah, that's what I thought about Northview in my 9th grade year.
All right, we'll give Coach Hicks and all those coaches their flowers in a few minutes. I don't want to get there just yet. Did you guys practice down in that Dust Bowl as 9th graders?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it was, look, by the time I came through, I'm 4 years behind you guys. I was an 8th grader, y'all's senior year. But by the time I came through as a 9th grader, there was no dirt. It was just pebbles and glass and weeds and all that. Was there at least grass when you guys started, or was it just
paid away for you, Bernard?
Right.
We killed the grass.
Right.
Yeah, running up and down that hill, we killed the grass.
Yeah.
But how cool was it, guys? You're a 9th grader. You're the first 9th grade class to eventually graduate, go through. But how cool was it to come to a brand new school, a brand new program, and you guys are on the beginning stages. You're the pioneers, if you will, as 9th graders. And we're all knuckleheads when we're 12 and 13 and 14. Some of us are still knuckleheads, but maybe you didn't appreciate it then, but was there the school spirit? Was there the leadership from the coaches? Was that evident to you guys at the time?
Yes, the thing that stood out to me was I knew then when we were in the 9th grade that, okay, this is going to be some hard work right here. Right. We didn't have, over at Girard, most of us came from Girard over there that I played with, like Brent Gilbert and all of those guys. It was different. We didn't work out. We didn't do all that running and all that, It was just natural ability to then. We didn't have all these things. Then we're introduced to the weight room, we're introduced to, like the practice is totally different, We've got all this equipment to work with, and I was like, okay, this is going to be some hard work, but it was fun. And I remember the 9th grade year really being fun. I wanted to ask Kerchal earlier, that he remembered it. We were the starting running backs on the 9th grade team.
Yep, I remember.
Yeah. You remember that?
Short season. It was a short season, but yeah. And we beat Dothan High the last game of the season.
Yeah. Hey, you remember we were the first team to beat Enterprise too. We beat Enterprise.
Yep.
Right.
Guys, I'm going to ask a question that Leon is thinking. If y'all were so good at running back in 9th grade, how'd y'all end up being in the defensive backfield when you got to varsity?
See, Bernard.
Oh, I know the answer to that one.
Bernard.
The answer to that one is because they can lay it down. That's why they can lay it down.
That's it.
Them boys, trust me, them boys can put a hit on somebody. So
well, let me ask you guys.
Say, oh yeah.
Did any of y'all grow up with Larry Roberts? Did y'all play with Larry growing up? Was he a force early on, or did that develop as he got later in high school?
That developed later on, because I was actually bigger than Larry in elementary school. Mm-hmm. And he went off, I think, to Wilson Street like in the sixth grade. And when we came back to Girard, he was way bigger than I was. You could see there, but that wasn't the coordination. It was hard. We playing football, it was hard to block him. It was hard to do anything with it, but he didn't have the coordination. Now you could just run past him then.
Wow.
Yeah. But boy, later on, when it came together.
Yeah. Guys, we got some more. We got some more Cougars who have popped on. I want to share who's with us tonight. My dad is watching. Thanks, Dad. We got Carla Gilroy. We got Mark Saffold. We got Coach Rick Cleveland. And Coach Cleveland, first of all, Mark Saffold says he's watching Northview royalty. He learned being a Cougar was all about watching the four of y'all, and obviously his older brother, Mickey. Coach Rick Cleveland, if you remember, was one of the early coaches. And Coach Cleveland said in his 46 years of coaching, y'all's state team was the finest team that he had ever been around. And I kind of want to pivot to right there, fellas. There was 41 years of Northview football, and your 13-1 season, the state championship team of 1981, I don't even think it's close. Even though we won a state title my year, it was a completely different kind of a team, completely different kind of a year. You guys were so dominant. And I know we're kind of skipping around a little bit, but I want to jump into the good stuff in the 81 team and season for a minute. In that spring of your junior year, and you go through spring training at the end of your junior year, you're starting to get that. I mean, y'all had a very good 80 season. 79 season was very good on varsity. Your 10th grade year, 11th grade year was good. But go to that spring of your junior year, just before school lets out for the summer. Was there talk of how good this team could be? Did you sense it amongst yourselves? Or was it just kind of an unspoken thought that maybe it was like an undercurrent, if you will, a vibe in the locker room?
I don't know if there was talk, but me, myself, I noticed definitely on the defensive side that anytime a play was ran or something came up, some kind of ball thrown, ball pitched or whatever, there was always somebody in the right place to make the play. It was just something that you notice. It was like, well, heck, he's where he's supposed to be. You know, so I got to be where I'm supposed to be to relieve the pressure off of whomever. Like for instance, one of the ends. They were always there, always at where they had to be. I just remember some of the crazy things that happened during games that I cussed about, but oh well.
Well, you know, at your junior year, guys, y'all were 7-3. This is your junior year. This is this 80 season. You start off beating Carroll 19-0. We beat Carroll every year. That was kind of a given to start off the season. Then you beat Prattville, a pretty good Prattville team, 17-10. We beat City Lanier, so it's a three wins to start your junior year. But then Crisp County beats us 6-0.
Right.
Destroy Kendrick. They were terrible back in the day. Beat Pine Forest. And then you get Carver of Montgomery, historically a pretty decent program. Y'all beat them pretty good. You beat them 28-13. Beat Selma, but then the last two games of the year, Enterprise and Dothan get us on both of those games. Did that leave a bad taste in your mouth at the end of your junior year?
More than Enterprise did, for sure. At the end of the game, when we lost that game, I remember them playing the song. I can't remember who it was, but "We Are the Champions of the World." That's what the band played after the game, and it just rubbed it in. It rubbed it in. And I know it wasn't just me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
If you remember, they started that game off 20-0 in the first quarter.
Right. I was about to bring that up. I noticed that in the second half, we were a totally different team. If you would go by halves, we ran out of time. I believe we would have beaten them then, but we ran out of time.
Right.
And then the next week, Dothan gets us pretty good, 19-7. That concludes, and no playoffs. That concludes your junior season. Now go back to that spring. You've been thinking about this now for 6 months. And I know in town, those guys are not being quiet across town about that. Did that provide extra motivation going into your senior year, or did you even need that? Just knowing what kind of team and the experience that was coming back, because y'all were fully loaded at every position.
The game that really stuck with me was the Dothan High game. I remember Leroy Marshall, a powerful running back. And I remember he broke loose and I was a free safety at the time. And he just ran over me. And that stuck with me. And so, we're going into our senior year of spring training. Like Kerchal was saying, and John was saying, we were introduced to the weight room, to a diet plan, the protein shakes. and we just came together as a team. And this sport here that you see, we always competed in a beneficial way towards one another in the weight rooms, classroom, on the football field. And we watched film together. We became closer as friends. I used to ride home with Kerchal all the time. During the morning time, I go to John's house and we ride to school together. And so we became real good friends. And I have to say that, yes, it was the Dothan High game that really made me grow up. And I went to spring training with a mindset of getting stronger, getting faster, and understanding my position better. So yes, Dothan High game that really turned me around as far as being a great football player for Northview.
Now what happened? We had a little help when we lost to Lanier. I never forgot that. Coach Parrish. I remember Coach Parrish ran us that next day, the next practice, and I remember his Coach Parrish's wife coming out. She said, John, don't run him too hard. He got us out because we would have still been running to this day had she not come out. And after that, I think everything just kind of kicked in. My opinion, I think when we lost to Lanier, we had a good team, but I don't think we really realized it. And once we lost, because Lanier they were okay, but I think after we lost to Lanier, and I don't know what happened. I don't know if it was the running or that running made us think. And after that, I think everything, in my opinion, kind of took off after that.
Yeah, that was a close game though, Kerchal. It was like what, 24-28?
Yeah. It was close, but they
just dominated.
They were not a good team, and the team that was our Achilles heel was always Enterprise. Mm-hmm. Enterprise, we beat them the freshman year, the sophomore, junior. They had, you guys remember Allen Evans?
Allen Evans, Byron Holmes,
all the way up. Parade All-American. This guy, they killed us. Byron Holmes, yes. The receiver.
Craig Florence, was he there?
Craig Florence.
Yep.
Craig Florence. All those guys. They killed us. So
Carlos Robinson, maybe.
Yep.
Oh yes.
Well, let me ask you guys. I want to talk about the relationship with Coach Griffin and the bond that you guys. And I don't know if some of y'all had closer bonds with him or not. I don't know if you ever got crossways with him or he got crossways with y'all. But clearly, Coach Griffin, he coached those defensive backs for all those decades, and he just seemed to have a way of communicating with his players. Leon, can you describe it a little bit? Were you close with Coach Griffin back in the day?
No, we weren't really close, but the things he said, the things he did was there's still some things I remember today. Like for instance, he said one of the things was never get beat on the same play twice. Mm-hmm. Never get beat on the same play twice. Now that stuck into me during the Lanier game. I mean, I'll think about game heroics, but they did a full house sweep to the left-hand side, which I was on the strong side, and I had never seen it before, and they ran me over like a train.
Right.
And then they did it again. And that's when they ran the play again the second time, I just attacked it because I already in the back of my head, never get beat on the same play twice. So when I recognized that play, I was gone. And that's when they fumbled the ball, and I looked up and saw Brett was running into the end zone. And that was it. Never get beat on the same play twice. That stuck big time.
Wow.
John, what about your relationship with Coach Griffin back in the day?
Back in the day, we, like Leon said, we weren't really that tight. What I remember most, and this sticks with me today too, is that you gotta want it. He'd always tell us that you gotta want it. Right. And I always lock that in with football then. Mm-hmm. But now I lock that in with life. You have got to want it. Anything that's worth it, you've got to just want it. You got to put in the work, just like in life. You know, nothing is given to you. So you've got to put in that work. And to this day, that sticks with me, you know. And now our relationship now, as older men now, it's a lot closer now. As a matter of fact, I got to call him when I get off from here if he ain't joined the scene yet. I forgot to call him. He'll get all over me now.
Kerchal, let me ask you this. I always played on the offensive side of the field. So Coach Griffin and Hicks, they were on the other side, you know, doing their thing with you guys. But the thing that always caught my attention about Coach Griffin is the higher his voice got, the more serious the issue was. What was that about?
Coach Griffin. Remember he did that
one, John.
Remember we did the drill and he hold the
Oh,
ball.
I hate the drill.
Going back, left back. And you're like,
And that was during the game, the pregame warm up.
yeah.
But and see the add what Kerchal also saying that we had, you're looking at the 4 starters. You had Bruce Johnson, you had Tim and Vance Emerson, you had Jimmy Barkley, you had Reggie White, Scott Lambert. We had a depth behind us. And we worked hard at defensive back. We earned our position and playing time. And so my relationship with Coach Griffin was, I always heard, no, Whaley, no, Whaley. And so I'm asking John and Kerchal, what are you talking about? No, what? I mean, what am I doing? What? And I'm trying to figure out what he mean by no. And later on, like John was saying, that he said, you got to want it. You know, you got to want it. So I understood that. And I started watching film. I started practicing hard, believing in Kerchal, Leon, and John. And my relationship with Coach Griffin then is even stronger now. Like I said, he just got inducted to the Wiregrass Sports Hall of Fame. And he talked about us all the time. And so, yes, I had a good relationship with him.
When I say around the horn,
No.
what's the first thing that comes to mind, John Kite?
Around the horn. Man, I really don't know what to say about that. That's something that you have to experience. Around the horn.
Whoa. Hold on, guys. My computer fell.
That's okay, but can you still hear us?
Yeah, I'm back. Sorry about that, guys.
Okay.
The around the horn is not something you ever want to do voluntarily. That's for sure.
Yes. Yes. I don't know how to explain that to anybody. If any one of y'all can explain it, go right ahead. All I know is that it's an experience.
John, I hated the pole, the light pole.
Oh yeah.
It started off slim and it started growing. I hated that pole.
It seemed like it would be the simplest.
Right, that's it. And then you go to what Coach Hick to the sled, or Coach Griffin to the sled. No.
Guys, we got some more Cougars in the house. We got Ross Morris, Sissy Carol Reynolds, Chuck Jackson, Carlisle Morris. Guys, thank you. And Coach Griffin said that, Coach Hicks said that Coach Griff's favorite was, you gotta want it. You gotta want it.
Want it. Yeah.
Guys, talk about leadership on the team. Clearly, the 4 of you guys provided leadership, not just in the defensive backfield and on the defense, but your actions as well as your words spoke volumes. But I want to talk about the leadership from the team as a whole. Who else were leaders on that 81 team that really got everybody's attention and people were paying attention and following their lead? Who else were those leaders?
David Alford.
Well, that's his first name came to my mind.
David Alford.
Larry Roberts, Scott Patterson, Carmichael Patton.
Yeah. Who else with that? Brad Kennington.
Bud Young.
Yep.
Bud Young, Brad Kennington.
Philip Bradwell.
Yeah.
Oh, Philip.
Yeah.
Yes.
Philip.
Absolutely,
Yep.
Philip. Jim Matheny.
Yeah.
Miz Fitch. I mean, the offensive line, Kevin Chris, remember Kevin Chris?
Oh, yes, yes.
Jeff Coleman, yes.
Let's not forget Dickie Little. Just remember.
Oh, yes. Dickie had to step in.
Let's
You had to step in and step up.
Right.
Let's go to that. Guys, let's go to the Crisp County game. I've had David on the show, and he's talked about that play that ended his season and essentially his career. What do y'all remember from that game?
I remember we were already close, but I remember the most then was it seemed like the team came closer, like we all got closer then.
Right.
You know, it's bad, not bad, but for someone to get hurt. But this was one of our leaders, one of our mainstays. And to see the team come together like that, that really brought us together.
Think about this. Think about when this happened in the season. This was a game after Lanier. You had just lost 28-24 to Lanier. Now you're playing at Crisp County. That play, some would say, might have been the turning point for the season.
It was.
If Dickey doesn't come in and do such a great job as running the offense, that season could have gone a much different way.
Yeah, definitely.
To his credit, Dickey
David Alford,
great job.
Yeah, with David Alford being the fastest one on the team, you knew that if he turned the corner with the ball, chances of they weren't going to catch it.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's almost like, okay, maybe the balloon the air was going out of the balloon, but then when Dickey and didn't miss a beat, it was like, man, okay, we're good to go. We are good to go.
Guys, we got
a stable running back.
We got Slim McDuffie is in the house. Says to tell you guys hello.
Hello, Slim.
Hello, Slim.
Oh, we got one of my teammates. Mike Henry is in the house. We got Eric Easley. Y'all got all kind of Cougars in the house tonight. This is awesome.
Eric Easley and Mike Henry. Wow, you talking about some great players? Yes.
Yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you guys, but I want to go back to Crisp County. I want to talk about Dickie Lillard, the impact of David's injury, because that could have been tragic. I mean, could have been the end of the season in a sense, but y'all kept going. What was being said, or was it was just time to go out and do? Was there a lot of talk, or was it we just got to buckle up and keep going?
We didn't do a lot of talking. Can I say two things like this? I want to talk about my best buddy right here, Tim Whaley. In that game, I really saw him play in that game. If you can see one man taking out a lead blocker and the pitch man and getting the running back on the option, then you know that there's something special right there. And I want to say something else about Dickie Lillard. Me and Dickie went back, we played Pee Wee football together. And he was a quarterback then. He was a little fella. But the one thing that I always saw about him is he never really got real rattled at anything. He always had a little poise about him in that position. I heard when we was at the Wiregrass Hall of Fame, I heard Doug Jones say that his eyes was big as silver dollars when he came in. But after that first play, he settled down. Yeah. And who wouldn't be at that moment? He just stepped into one of the biggest moments in his life at that time. And so we were expected to go undefeated. We lost the game. And now we lost the starting quarterback. And here he is, right after that loss, stepping into that game. And what an awesome job he did.
Yes. Yeah. And to add to that, Bernard, when you take a Kerchal Byrd who had at the time a 4.45 speed, I mean, I had so much confidence in Kerchal, and then you got Leon, your strong safety, and John, your free safety. I mean, we had the defensive back to control, like say, the Soul Patrol. I mean, I believe in these guys. I know John is giving me props on what I did, But my company came from watching John at free safety and Leon at strong safety and Kerchal, at the other corner. And so I think we all came together and we played throughout the year after that loss with Lanier. And so, yes, I was honored to play with the guys.
Tim, that's by this point, you guys were now in your 4th season playing together. You had been coached by some of the very best, but how many schools back then had 4 confident, experienced defensive backs in the same, playing in the same unit? But tell me, those practices had to have been harder than those Friday night games for the most part. How hard was that going up against DJ and Woo and Larry and all those guys? Talk to me, Kerchal. What was that about?
It was hard, especially about that time. Doug Jones came into his own, and he was playing fullback. So you didn't really hit him or Larry. They knew we were there, and I think a lot of times Coach Hicks kind of pulled us out at practice because he didn't want us to hurt anybody. But we hit hard. I mean, we were some hard hitting people, even in tackle drills against each other. I remember when we did the around the horn, a lot of times it ended up being me and Tim going up against each other, me and Leon, or me and Kite. And it felt like hitting a brick wall, but we didn't let up. I didn't say, let's take it easy, or John, let's take it easy. We would go at each other full speed. One of us was the ball carrier, the other was the tackler. Oklahoma, right? Oklahoma drill. So
yeah, that's what I was about to say, those Oklahomans.
Yeah,
Oklahoma, right?
We did not let up. We went full speed. No holds barred. I didn't care if Tim was my friend, John was my friend, and they felt the same way. We knew that the harder we practiced, the harder we played, the better we play in the game. So, and that's what we did. So,
Leon, how much were you looking forward to Friday nights after knocking heads on Mondays and Tuesdays in those goal line drills or those inside the 5-yard line one-on-ones? How much were y'all looking forward to Friday nights?
I love Friday night for one reason. And one reason was, well, as far as the competition was concerned, I knew no one could block as good as Philip Braswell could. Nobody could run out there and put you on your butt the way he would every time. So yeah. I was glad I had somebody else to hit other than, Philip Braswell, or trying to get around him, because he'd grind you in the dirt. The other teams did not practice as hard, and they weren't as good on the offensive side, might I say. That for what we had to go through and go up against. Those guys, they had the stuff down. And Philip Braswell, I'm pretty sure he got Kerchal and John and everybody else. He put us in.
Yeah.
And that made that made us better, because obviously I had to learn how to get around him, how to get through him. So that made us better for sure.
Yeah.
And one thing about it is, whenever Philip Braswell was the lead blocker on any outside play, I tell myself, the defender don't know, but he's blocked. He is blocked already. He just don't know. So that was Philip Braswell was my guy for sure.
Mm-hmm. Philip was one of those unsung guys that just, being a blocking back, doesn't get the props that the guys behind him toting the rock get. But man, you can't have a successful offense that Northview ran back in the day without a player like Philip, who would just knock everybody out of the way for Woo or DJ or those guys to put it on them. But guys, we got Shane Cobb in the house, said to tell you hello.
Oh, Shane.
Shane.
We got Donnie Drill has joined us. So
we all love Shane.
Shane,
oh, yeah.
We're going one-on-one this weekend. Let me know.
You got me next, Shane.
Whose hamstring pops first if that happens?
You're right.
All right, guys, I want to take you back to the season, because you're now 3-1.
Right.
Knocked off Carroll, Prattville, Crisp County. Sidney Lanier, for whatever their reason, even when they had mediocre teams, had Northview's number more often than we had theirs. But here's where you guys stepped it up. That defense, you shut out Kendrick, 7 points to Pine Forest, 13 to Carver of Montgomery, 3 to Selma, 6 to Enterprise. That's where I want to stop right now. You beat the pants off of Enterprise 17-6. You got your revenge. That had to have been a sweet game for you guys.
That was the defense. I think Coach Hicks came with, where I think we had, remember Tim, myself and Tim played back like safeties, and then they moved John and Leon up to the line of scrimmage, so they had 8 guys. Or if they were double tight, 8 guys.
They had 2 tight ends, right?
Right, because they
didn't score until 1 minute left in the game.
Mm-hmm.
You had a shutout until then. Fred Hamilton had a 2-yard run with 1:02 to go in that game.
Right. I also think we probably had a third team in there too.
Yep, and that was a home game. That was at Northview.
Right.
And
then the defensive design for that game, that made us. I'm sure it made us. I know it made us. You know, they couldn't throw the ball, so you know that let Pye and Kerchal back up a little bit, and then they ran the same offense they tried to run against Dothan, who also played with those 4 linebackers, but they didn't have the people or the personnel that we had. So
so when you have linebackers like Scott Patterson and Kenneth Owen, you had, remember, David Holloway,
David Fields,
Summerford. I mean, we had some great defensive players.
Had a lot of good defensive players. A lot.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And I know we talk a lot about the offensive player, but you know, you got Ron Eli. We call him Chief. Ron was fast. Marcus Paul, along with Woo with them. So we had a great, awesome attack offensive wise. Yes.
No, in the next week, you almost shut out Dothan High. Leray Marshall kicks a field goal with 3.5 minutes to go. Y'all win that one 10-3. Woo scored a touchdown in the second quarter. Alan Lopez kicked a field goal. So you get your revenge your senior year. You've got a 1-loss team headed into the playoffs. And some say that, well, we'll get to the Jeff Davis game in a minute, but I want to you take on Murphy at home. You beat them 17-14. I'm an 8th grader, guys. And the 8th grade of me is watching all you guys. And I'm sitting with my 8th grade football buddies at Rip Hughes, and y'all were the gods. Y'all were the jam. All of you guys, because that's all we wanted to do. We wanted to be y'all a few years later. But I want you I want to step back. I'm sorry, I want to do this. I want to talk about how special Rip Hughes Stadium was on Friday nights for you guys. You know, we all had those routines. We go to the pep rallies, which were phenomenal. Did you guys back in the day, did you go to a movie? Did you hang out at school? Did you go to a dinner? What was the routine on a Friday night on home games?
Movie, and then Western Sizzler. Western Sizzler Steakhouse. I think it's the same location where it used to be a Chinese restaurant, right? At the intersection of, is it 231 and the Circle?
Okay.
So, yeah, we always went there and had a steak before the game. I think it was after the movie, right? We went to the movies first, and then to the house. And then we had to drink that honey water.
You remember? Yes, the honey water. The honey water.
Was that when we went back to the school and we all find our own little spot, and I'd always go to sleep. And Kerchal would always come and get me. Okay, John, it's time. And I get up. I never knew where he was, but he would always come and get me. It was the atmosphere.
Right.
I mean, wow, it was the atmosphere.
It was so serene. It was serious after the pep rally, after the movies, going to the restaurant, and then you go back to the gym, and the lights are like cool, and you find your place of peace.
Yes.
And you surrender to it, and you get your game face on. Yep.
There wasn't a lot of music or none of that. It was a quiet time.
Quiet.
Just starting to get mentally ready for the game.
Mm-hmm.
No talking.
On the way there, we didn't speak. We didn't talk until on the way back. from the game.
The culture.
If we lost, we didn't speak, we didn't talk. That was even quieter.
You get dressed, you put on your pants and your jerseys over, you got your pads and your helmets in your hands. We get on the bus. I assume Bubba's driving one of the buses. Who else was driving, if you remember?
Coach Hicks and Coach Parrish.
Okay.
Coach Hicks, I believe.
All right, you get over to Rip Hughes. It's kind of quiet. There's not a lot of folks there just yet. Do you guys remember the pregame speeches by Coach Parrish and hearing the student body or the band directly above the locker room, the home locker room? Do you remember any of those sights and sounds of the pregame time?
See, I remember, and I'll let them talk some. I remember when we left Northview and we driving down the highway and we were close to the stadium and you could smell the bread.
Oh yeah.
That kind of woke you up. Then you roll into the stadium, you get off the bus, you go into the locker room, you get ready for pregame warm up. And you warm it up, Coach Hicks, Coach Griffin taking us through the drills. You watch the offense go through their drill, and you start seeing the fan base start filling the stadium. And the lights get brighter, and you're now in that mode, ready to play football.
Yeah.
Then the captain go out there and they flip the coin, and it's game time.
Yeah.
I get to watch John, Kerchal, and Leon play. It was awesome. It was real.
Leon, any of this resonating with you? You remember these Friday nights at Rip Hughes?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I remember the chant that we had when we were going through the drills, and that was the "We are Northview" chant, and that always stuck with me. I couldn't think of anybody else, any other team that had a chant as good as ours, and that sounded as good. It was "We are," then that double clap in Northview, and that was, to me, I think that scared a lot of teams out of wanting to play because it sounded so good.
Kerchal, did you have any pregame rituals or routines or superstitions? You know, some athletes put on their socks the same time, the same way, anything like that was come to mind.
I used to tape my string. So if you watch, if you have any pictures of the old games, I would put tape around the flap of my shoe and the strings so they wouldn't come loose. So I wouldn't have to tie my shoe. But I stayed quiet, and I stayed quiet until normally right before the game, Coach Parrish would say a prayer. He would normally get emotional, and that would get us fired up. I don't know if you guys remember Coach Parrish getting a little emotional before the game. They prayer, get emotional, and then that got us fired up.
Did any of you guys get subjected to when he had a ring on and he would hit your helmet? Did you ever have that where it would just ring? I mean, it would explode in volume inside of your helmet. Did you ever have that pleasurable experience?
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
John, what about your pregame at Northview? At Rip Hughes. Did you have any rituals or superstitions?
Really, I just like to watch my teammates run out. I like to see them run out. That did something to me to see my teammates running out there and watching them. But I want to go back to Kerchal over there. He had one. I see he doesn't forget about that. But before every game, he wanted me to try to fake him so he could hit me before the game.
I forgot about that.
I didn't like it, but if it helped him, I was willing to do it.
I didn't know that.
No rituals. I'm never a ritual person.
Wow.
John, I think we lost your volume for just a minute, bud. You'll come back in. Tim, talk about Coach Griffin, Coach Hicks, the defensive coaches in that pregame and during the game. How is it that they fed into your confidence or gave you guys the confidence on Friday nights that you knew that you'd be successful that night?
It started, Bernard, it started Monday in practice. And then it led into Tuesday. and we had they had scouted the other team, and they brought an offense over to us to actually watch and mimic what was been done offensively for us to be prepared for the game. It went into Wednesday, and I think Thursday we picked team captain for the game. So like I said earlier, we had to earn, the right to play for Northview and your position, because we had a great depth chart behind us. And so going into the pet rallies, it was leading us to the game. And so Coach Griffin, Coach Hicks, an amazing scout was Coach Johnson, I think, and Coach Andrews, who would scout the other team. And so we didn't have social media like we had today. Yeah. And so we would go watch film, prepare for the other team. And so again, the answer to the question is Coach Griffin, Coach Hicks, they prepared us for the game. And we had confidence in what they were teaching us, what they were showing us, and the skills that have been taught to us. And so, yes, that's my thought on what you asked.
Okay. Let me take you guys back. Now we're going to go to the playoffs. John, I'll unmute you, bud, once you get settled back. Let's talk about the Murphy game, opening of the playoffs. It's at home. And you guys come out with a 17-14 squeaker, which ultimately it was, let's see, they scored late to make it 17-14. I think y'all were up 17-7. And Patrick Washington threw a touchdown pass with about 5 minutes to go, and that ended the scoring. But that was a very talented Murphy team. Pat Washington, of course, went on to play at Auburn. But do y'all remember, was there any, did you have any excitement? I mean, not excitement, that's the wrong word. Did you have any nervousness, or was it a quiet confidence, or both, going into the playoffs?
To be honest with you, we had gotten to the point where we were like we just expected to win. And that particular game, it was like, that was the first time I got beat for a touchdown. I caught a lot of passes on me, but that was the first time I'd gotten beat for a touchdown. And then that kind of made me a little bit hesitant in that game. I wanted to stay back, but I wanted to come up too. But I knew I needed to stay back. And I think that was really how he was passing for so many yards, because I played back after that.
Mm-hmm. And keep in mind, that team had Joe Smith who signed with Alabama. Mm-hmm. So Pat Washington, Auburn, Joe Smith, Alabama. So
yeah, in fact, Joe Smith had an 80-yarder that game. Maybe, John, that's what the play you're talking about. Washington, an 80-yarder in that game. But guys, I want to move to the next game because somebody in this panel ended up scoring a touchdown against Foley. I wonder if he remembers that play.
I did, Bernard. It was a fumble. I think they was driving on us, maybe the 20-yard line going in. And I think it was an option that he pitched it and just a perfect bounce into my hand. And I remember running down the field, hitting the crowd, passing by players. And I needed to hear that and going to the end zone. And who was down there to meet me? Brent Gilbert. I'm like, where's Kerchal? Where's John? How is Brent Gilbert beating everybody down here? And so, yes, I remember that play. It was a great game.
We all spanked them pretty good. It was 28-12. So the order, I guess, had been restored as far as the defense goes. Yes. Because frankly, guys, after the Crisp County game, you looked like you were going to throw a shutout every game. That defense was so tough. But I know you guys give props to the 7 in front of you as well.
Oh,
but
most definitely.
Now I want to take you to the game that some say was probably the state championship game of that year. But I want you all to set the tone. This is at Jeff Davis. And so many people have described this game. Kerchal, let's hear from you first, bud. Does that game stick out as a memorable game for you?
No, No, not really. The big games for me were Enterprise, Dothan Enterprise, and then Carver Birmingham. But I don't remember a whole lot about Jeff Davis.
Let me share a little bit with you. There was no scoring in the fourth. In fact, in the second half, there was only a field goal by Alan Lopez. That was the game difference in the scores, 10-7. It was a slugfest. No scoring in the first or fourth quarters. There was a touchdown. They threw a 50-yarder from Mike Turk, who went on to play at Troy. And let's see, Larry caught one from Dickey in the first quarter. But that was such a defensive, I'll call it a slugfest.
It was.
But here's the other thing that you may remember. You remember Coach Griffin passing out after the game. You remember this? He talked about this in his speech the night.
I
Yeah, I remember him passing out.
Yes.
He got so animated.
To me personally, that game was the hardest game we played all season. I was so tired during that game. I was just dragging and just hoping the rest of the defense could just hold on to keep them from scoring. I was exhausted after that game. So I mean, I don't know why I didn't pass out myself. So, and I'm pretty sure everybody else was exhausted. It seemed like it was the toughest game we had.
I assume that was at the Crampton Bowl. It was in Montgomery. I know that.
Yeah.
Yes.
We got Woo Woo Parker's in the house. Hey, Woo, thanks. It was great to see you the other night, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Hey, Woo Woo.
I remember that game. What I remember in that game was I remember they had this running back. I can't remember his name, but he was a 1,000-yard runner. I remember Leon hitting him pretty hard a few times.
Leon did hit hard, John. Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
That might have been why I was so tired.
Yeah. I'm like Kerchal. I really don't remember that much about it other than that when they scored that touchdown. I remember that the receiver pushed Tim down, but the referee called pass interference on him.
On Tim.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
that's what I remember.
You were playing on the road at Jeff Davis, so I'm not surprised. But guys, that was up to that point. That was the biggest win in Northview history up to that point, because that's the game that puts you in the state finals against Carver of Birmingham. I'm taking a chance here. Do you remember the ride back after the JD game home in the buses? I want to know what music was being played. What were y'all blasting on those buses?
I don't remember.
I don't remember. I think
we might all been asleep.
Quiet.
Yeah, I think we all asleep.
Yeah, I don't remember. Yeah, because we still had one more step. So I think
So it was still business. It was still.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, it was still business. Yes.
All right, you guys get home, and on Tuesday before the state title game, y'all famously came up to Legion Field. You remember the scene in Hoosiers where they go to the big gym and he still measures the goal. Guys, it's the same. It's just a bigger gym.
Right.
Was that mentality with you guys? Because clearly you hadn't played in a stadium as big as Legion Field up to that point. Crampton Bowl is pretty big, but nothing like Legion Field. And the AstroTurf, was that new? Was all of that kind of just a new experience to you guys?
Yeah, it was pretty new because if I remember correctly, I think Coach Cleveland got us some artificial turf shoes. I think he came out with the molded cleats. That didn't work. We were slipping. So they got us some artificial turf shoes to play in that game. I remember that. Pair of Converse.
Yep, the All-Star Converse. Yep. So white, light. Yeah. I just remember most.
Yeah.
Go ahead, John.
What I was about to say, what I remember most is not only when we went to Legion Field, but even on the road, most of the time we would have more fans than home team. I remember looking up, and I think we had more fans than Carver did up there. and they were like from Birmingham.
Right. Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
Just have an amazing fan base.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you
But no,
guys
were you at
ever
the game?
hear- Go ahead, Tim.
Were you at the game?
Was I?
Yes.
No, it's still a sore subject with me with my mother. So no, I was not allowed to go.
Tell your dad and say hello. He and Mr. Number.
I wanna ask you guys about, had you ever heard or did you know for a fact that some of the Carver coaches sat up in the press box and watched y'all's Tuesday practice? Did y'all know that?
I didn't know it.
Evidently, making a difference.
Now you do, because here's why the reason why I say that is this Carver game, and I don't know if Carver was any better than Jeff Davis or Murphy or any of those other teams. That was not the best game played that season by the team. There were a lot of turnovers. There were a lot of penalties. Do you remember, was the vibe of the team, was there jitters? Was it still a confident team? Was it just one of those days, or was it partially a product of, hey, Carver just scouted us on Tuesday? I'm asking.
I don't know one of the things I noticed, and you actually had posted the video of the state championship game on YouTube, is they really tested us. They tested our secondary. First play out of the gate was a
Came at you, Kerchal.
the very first, and from them, they didn't run the ball that much. They passed and passed. Of course, then we have a pick six. No, we didn't get a pick six. It was 24. Whoever 24 was, he picked off the.
Was it Brad Kennington?
Brad Kennington.
Right.
Brad
They
Kennington,
proved
very
that
young with our
game.
safety people.
Right. You watch that game, just throwing the ball, throwing. They threw the whole game. I don't even think they really tried to get a running game going. So that was our.
There was a newspaper article where they said they thought they could throw on us. I remember that. There's an article where they thought they could throw on us. So that spelled it out right there. What they were gonna try to.
Did that get y'all's attention pregame?
It got us we were always looking for whatever was going to come next. So if like for instance, if they thought they could throw on us, we're already on top of that. So what's going to come after them trying to throw? So we weren't, not that we weren't worried about them throwing, but we had just played Patrick Washington down there, who had a stronger arm than their quarterback did. So we weren't worried about the quarterback too much. It's just them throwing the ball. Now the receivers were good, but that didn't scare us, I don't think.
No.
Guys,
We didn't know they were going to do it. We didn't know they were going to come out throwing.
well, and it was 0-0 at halftime. I mean, that's about as much defense as you can ask for in a 4A state title game. The first scoring of the game was Dickey to Larry, 8 yards. Allen kicks the extra point at 7-0, and that's at the 9-minute mark in the third quarter. And then they score at the end of the third quarter. Cedric Delbridge, 23-yard return of a blocked punt.
Yeah.
But tell me, why was their kick unsuccessful, their point after try?
Their field goal kicker was terrible. He was just flat out terrible. And like I said, I remember they was going to kick a field goal, and I think they fumbled one of his head, and they tried to throw it into the end zone, and we knocked it down.
Right.
But I mean, they had, our game was terrible too. As far as fumble, I think they fumbled four times in the game, and so we just played good. We played, but you didn't see Northview play as we played, like Jeff Davis or Murphy or Dalton High.
Right.
Did you catch when he said, "We knocked that down"? Did you hear Tim just now?
Yeah.
How much you take us to that play?
Oh, that was Tim. That was actually Tim Whaley, I thought, right? Then you get knocked the first, then you knock that pass down? Tim?
Yeah, when I remember when they were trying to kick a field goal and it went over his head.
Right.
And I remember seeing Leon rushing towards the ball, towards the trying to get the ball. And I think he was back, and somehow the receiver slipped into the end zone. And I remember following him back there. And when he threw the ball, he's about to catch it, and I knocked his hand down, and we disrupted that play.
Right.
And so, yeah, Bernard, it was to me, and I try not to say what I did is always, even to the day, is what we did as a team.
Right.
Yeah, when I looked up into the end zone after the ball was thrown, I saw 20 Northview jerseys in the end zone.
Yes.
Yeah, it was people that shouldn't have been there.
Right.
They was in there, but that was the luck of what we had. It was so many people in that end zone, even off of the defensive line, trying to knock that ball down. So I was grateful because I couldn't make the tackle.
Now, John, do you remember the last play of the game?
The last play on that, I remember seeing Tim knocking the ball down. That's all I remember on that. I was thinking back to how we really got there, and I'm surprised nobody mentioned it. But that what was it, Murphy game, where Tim, he intercepted the ball with like 17 seconds left in the game.
Yeah,
and he intercepted the ball in the end zone. Now, I'm gonna start calling him Big Play Tim. I should have been calling him that, but he intercepted the ball with like 17 seconds left. And that's how we really got there. I know you say that we do it as a team, but in the team is made up of individual parts, and we all have to do our part. And all night long, we were getting whooped. But when it counted, the Cougars would always come through.
All right. And on that, Bernard, that play he's talking about with Murphy, here's what slowed them down. Coach Hicks, he called either Bud Young or Brad Kennington out, who was the defensive end, and they walked out into the receiver just to slow him down. And we did that same play against Carver. And so again, that play calling on Coach Griffin and Coach Hicks' behalf actually helped us win that game.
Sure.
And so I remember telling John, man, he's killing me on the post flag. Help him out with the post flag. And then Coach Hicks came out, hey, let's move the defense end out and slow him down for you. And that play allowed me to see the play develop to get the interception. So yes.
It was
everybody in the stadium during that play knew where the ball was going. Everybody. I mean, the strong side was, I think, was to the left. So I was up close, closer to the line, closer to the tight end, but I knew where the ball was going. As soon as the ball was hiked, I took off that way. I wouldn't have made it, no way. I mean, I was lucky enough to see Tim intercept the ball. But everybody knew where that ball was going. Everybody.
Well, when the last play occurred in the state title game, and you look up on the scoreboard, and it's all zeros. How was that? What was that feeling like for you guys?
Amazing. It's finally over.
Yeah. And then we didn't have to go home with our heads down.
Right.
Right. It didn't hit me until we got back home.
Right.
Yeah. Right. We hit 231 up there, and that crowd was up there waiting on us all the way home with the police taking us back to the school.
Yeah, that was
that's when it really hit me.
Yeah.
Now, you can't tell me the buses were quiet on that ride home.
Oh no.
It wasn't. It was over.
Nah, not to start off. I mean, not to end up, but yeah, not to start off. It wasn't quiet, and especially when we got home. Man.
Were there folks waiting at campus for everybody when you got home?
Yes. You had, family, friends, like I said, the escort by the City of Dothan Police Department. it was just so surreal that we couldn't take it in at that moment. You know, it just later on, weeks later, we realized, even to this point now, Bernard, we're like, hey, you know, we were the state championship in 1981. And here's part of the team right here that's talking about it.
Well, you know, just from a personal standpoint, my crew, my 8th grade guys who came to school the next year in the fall of 82, you guys graduated in 81, excuse me, in the spring of 82. So the next season, I'm a freshman. And to see you guys either in person or to watch some of the film or to read or go into the trophy area,
right?
We're bigger than life to us. And you set that bar so high that's what we didn't know as 9th graders, we would later also capture a title. But you guys paved the way for our crew. And it was amazing as a youngster to be able to watch you guys do your thing. Now, when you guys are on the field, you may not feel that way. Hey, you got young guys in the crowd looking at us. You know, we got to do what we got to do, because you're not necessarily thinking of that stuff all the time. But just from my perspective, I wanted to share with y'all that y'all just set that bar so high. It was such an awesome achievement for y'all to go 13-1 and win the 4A state title and bring it back to our little town of Dothan, to our high school. It's awesome.
Yes, yes.
Now, I want to take you guys a little bit. We're getting close, and I appreciate your time. This has been probably as much fun for me as maybe for you guys. But the celebrations, the when the trophy is presented, and I hadn't even talked about Dr. Smith and his pep rallies. So take us what you guys remember about the post-game celebrations and things, because you must have been on cloud 9 for weeks, if not months. Kerchal, what do you remember, bud?
I remember the trip to the Civic Center to meet see the mayor, right?
Right.
Yes. Yep. And so, yeah, I remember that's one of the things that kind of stuck out was, and I guess it was somewhat surreal because knowing that it's over. So it was one of the most the best times of our lives, and now it's over. But having that experience was probably one of the best feelings in the world. Just to know that we won. We did something that's never been accomplished in Dothan. So
yeah, the Dothan High School team mid-70s lost the state title two back-to-back years to Homewood and to Mountain Brook. So it was the first football state title, that's for sure. Leon, what do you remember about those weeks or months after the state game?
Tell you the truth, I don't remember much of it, at all. None at all. So,
John, did you even go to class after that? Did you?
It's strange you should ask me that.
That's a loaded question, Bernard.
I know it's a loaded question. So since Larry's not here to defend himself, I'm gonna put it all on him. No, I went to class, but that was one class we just didn't go to. Me and Larry, we just didn't go there. I'm not gonna throw anybody under the bus. About the teacher.
I can say it.
Yeah, huh?
Home economics.
What'd you say, Tim?
Go ahead, John.
Well,
anyway,
y'all were all being. Go ahead, John. I'm sorry to talk over you, bud.
I remember. I remember going out on a few dates to some places and getting ready to pay, and it was free. Somebody had already paid a couple of times. I remember that. And it made me feel good. I was like, wow, because I don't think I had that great season, but people recognized it, and that stood out to me.
Yeah.
Tim, you've got that look on your face like nobody paid for your lunch.
What about you, Kerchal?
I remember sixth period was PE, right?
Right.
And I don't know if you guys remember right before the spring game, we all decided to sneak off and go to the Chinese buffet. And when we got back, Coach Parrish got word of it. And you remember what we did before the game? He made us, everybody was on the bus and we had to roll all the way the length of the football field and back. I don't know if you guys remember that.
Oh, I remember that, Kerchal. John was there, wasn't he?
He was there, I think.
I wasn't in it. Yeah, I wasn't in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wasn't in there.
Yeah.
It was,
Yeah,
Leon.
Larry was there with us too.
no, Larry wasn't there. Larry told
was the
on
one
us.
that told it.
Wait, Larry got y'all in trouble?
Yes. Larry told it.
Well, we had to roll for the spring jamboree game. We had to, everybody was on the bus. We had to, Coach Parrish took us to the field. We rolled from one end to the other. And you know, on the way back, you know, after you finish rolling and you stand up, you're like, you know, wobbling around and stuff. Couldn't stand up. Never forgot that.
Well, guys, after your senior football seasons at Northview, you're being recruited. John, I know you went off to Tennessee State, and the other three fellas, y'all ended up together at Southeast Louisiana. I guess I'll start with you, John. How did you end up in Nashville? How did Tennessee State end up on your radar?
My speed.
Yes.
Somebody made a comment about David Alford being the fastest, but I think I might have been. And that was one thing that stood out to him was my speed.
Did you also run track? Because I know Tennessee State's women's program was remarkable for 25 years. Did you also run track at Tennessee State?
Oh, don't like track. That was too much running.
And fellas, how did the three of y'all end up in school together? What was the thought process were y'all a package deal, or how did that come to play?
For me, I was a walk-on, so I wanted to go where they were going. So that's what happened with me.
Yeah, I think for me, Coach Griffin said, you're going to Southeast Louisiana, you're going to play for Coach Shelley, and that was it. I didn't ask any questions. Yeah, he did. He told me, so.
Tim, what about you? How'd you end up there?
Well, again, Coach Shelley, Coach Ronnie Shelley, he was from this area.
Yeah.
And I remember him coming to the house and talking with us, the family. And I don't know if Kerchal remember, I talked with Kerchal's son, and Kerchal's saying he was going to Southeastern. And like I said, Leon walked on. And so I felt it was a package deal, and we were still together. We knew each other. And it was a great experience down in Hammond, Louisiana at Southeastern.
Were there any
other offers?
Uh-huh.
I heard like what was it, University of Miami, or I remember Tennessee, Alabama State, went to several visitation different schools, but Southeastern was the one that Kerchal and I decided to go to together as a team, and with Leon, and I think John came later on. Was it Leroy Marshall, Steve Ince was there, Kerchal.
Steve Ince, yeah.
Steve was already there.
That's what I was going to ask you. Were there already either Northview or Dothan High guys on the roster?
Steve Ince, can't remember.
Leroy Marshall was there. He came. Joe Clark. You remember Joe Clark? Joe came later on.
Yeah, Joe was from Cottonwood.
Was after us. Danny Strickland. He's from the area. So we had quite a few players from the Wiregrass that traveled down to Southeastern.
Right.
Well, guys, we've got just a couple more minutes, and I sure appreciate you taking us down memory lane tonight. But I'll start with you, Tim. Two things. I want to talk about the impact of Coach Parrish on you, not just as a ball player, but as a person away from the field. And then secondly, what has it meant to you over the years to have played and graduated from Northview?
Wow. Coach Parrish, even today, Bernard, he's a coach, he's a friend, and he's an advisor to me. I remember, I want to say Kerchal, you know, I didn't come back to Southeast in my sophomore year. Coach Griffin and Coach Parrish came to my house and said, "Pi, you know, what's going on? Why you not going back to school?" And I had my personal reasons why I didn't want to go back. That meant a lot to me that they would come to my house after my season with Northview and had an interest in me as a person and young man say, "Hey, look, you need to go back to school and make something of yourself. Get your degree. You don't want to stay in Johnson Home all your life," which I didn't inherit it anyway, because I knew I wanted to be more than Johnson Home. And today, I can call Coach Parrish and we'll talk about football, we'll talk about life, and we'll talk about the good old days from Northview. So playing at Northview today is an honor to play with these guys, Kerchal, Leon, John, Larry, Scott, Carmichael, even watching Doug Jones, Dwight Jones, David Offer. You remember the wide receiver Kerchal that played before us. He was a good one. I can't think of his name right now. He's a doctor now. Yes. And it's been an honor to me to be part of this team, part of Northview, playing in the city of Dothan and representing Northview well. So that's my thought on it as far as
Thank you, Tim.
my involvement.
Leon, what about you, bud? Same two questions. Impact of Coach Parrish and what has it meant to you to have gone to and played and graduated from Northview?
Coach Parrish was definitely a big time impact on me personally. I've learned to observe things over the years, and I would watch him and some of the things he'd do. I remember some of the times when we were going through practice, and we were just, I guess, having a lollygolly day, and we'd have to hit the runs, hit the hills, because Coach Parrish said, "Hey, we're not going through, we're just going through the motions. We're not doing what we're supposed to do," you know. Well, I learned then that he was very, very serious about his practice and about what he had going on, and he was going to make sure that things ran his way, or at least the way they should, and if they didn't, then he was going to make us get back in line and do the things we should do. And the second part of the question was
about Northview, playing and graduating from Northview. What has that meant to you over the years?
Oh, well, yeah. I think it has an even bigger impact on me now that it's not called Northview any longer. You know, I kind of look at it and say, how can they, you know, just do that? Because that kind of washes everything that we did or everything that we were a part of down the drain. I haven't been back there, but that was the impact of Northview. Is almost as if we won't be remembered, or things that happen at the school under the name Northview won't be remembered. So that's kind of a bad taste for me.
Well, let me share this, and I'm going to come to you, Kerchal, next. That's in part why I started doing conversations with Cougars. We're telling the oral history of our program. So conversations like this bring back those memories, and now they're being preserved. So Leon, thank you for sharing that insight, because a lot of people feel the same way you do about the legacy of our school. Kerchal, what has Coach Parrish meant to you, and the fact that you played and graduated from our school, from Northview?
Well, I can kind of piggyback off of Tim. My dad died when I was 8, so I didn't really have a father figure, and so going to Northview, and I think my first experience with Coach Parrish was at a track meet in the 9th grade, and my mom dropped me off, and she said, "What time? You want me to come back at 3?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Don't say yeah to your mama. Say yes, ma'am." So those type of things that he did, kind of kind of shaped me because, my mom didn't raise us to say yes, sir, no. So all those things that I learned was from him. And Coach Parrish, Coach Griffin, all of them, they were Christians. And I've never heard them curse. They didn't curse at us and, degrade us on the field. They just made us work hard. And they set a high standard. And I think so much so to where, and Tim can identify with this, when we went to college, it was a little different, right? We would call everything except the kitchen sink from, but getting used to that. So it took a lot getting used to, almost to the point where my sophomore year, after you didn't come back, Tim, I went to Coach Lofton and told him, look, I can't play anymore. And Coach Griffin got me to stay. So told me to stay, don't leave. And I came back, but I went ahead and played, and that's how my, career got started. But these guys to this day are instrumental in my life, and some of the things that they do and their approaches I try to apply in the life of, with my wife and my kids.
Kerchal, I gotta ask, talking about the never hearing certain things coming out of Coach Parrish's mouth, Coach Griffin, did you guys ever meet anybody named Sam Hill? And why is he so important?
What about Dad Gummit?
Dang gummit.
They're cousins. Those guys are cousins. We've known
Don't need a hill beam.
Dad Gummit. I started chewing tobacco because of him at that time. I don't do it now, but during those days, Coach Parrish would take that chewing tobacco out, that Red Man, and chew it. And I was like, man, I want to try this. Of course, it made me sick, but I tried. So just stuff like that. It had an influence.
I was so good in practice that my practice uniform typically was plastered with tobacco juice, with Coach Parrish yelling at me for whatever my transgression.
You, Bernard.
Oh, yes,
All American quarterback.
Yeah, no, sir. We'll have to have a talk afterward. John, I got to come to you, bud. Impact of Coach Parrish, and what has it meant to have graduated and played for Northview?
The one thing that hits me the most was hard work. Playing under Coach Parrish at Northview taught me the value of hard work, to be persistent. And I apply that today. And loyalty, And it was like Kerchal said, I apply that with my wife, Now, honesty. I learned those things that, like before then, I really didn't have a male influence in my life. I was kind of a wild child. But those things that they instilled in me then, they come to a forefront now in my life. I'm a lot older now, but those values, they taught us. They are there now, and they're strong. And I would encourage anybody, that was under them to think back on those things that they taught you. And they wanted you to be good at football, but a lot of things they talked to me about was life. Because I think they understood me better than I did myself back then. And so they talked to me about life and life issues and things like that. That's the stuff that I got from Coach Parrish. I quit one time, and he came to my house, and he told me, he said, "This is where you need to be. This is where you need to be. If you're out, you're gonna get trouble to follow you." So, but he told me, but when you come back, you're gonna have to work harder than you did before, to get those things, in order to play or anything like that, that I was really gonna have to work. And it's still there. As far as having played at Northview, man, if I had to do it all over again, I wouldn't change that. we did something that we had an experience that nobody else, well, very few, I'm gonna put it like that, can say that they did. I guarantee you there's not too many players that came through the city of Dothan on any team that 41 years later can say that this is still my best friend. Tim is still my best friend. He was then and he still is now. How many people can say that? You can be close. I talked to first of and man, it was like, you know, it was nothing like each other in so many years, you know, that it was just like we just got talked the other day. And that's, you know, that's what they bring to you. That's what being there at Northview taught me. And those are things that I look back on. You know, you can relate to this. There was a real legacy behind. And even though it doesn't mean anything to people that come along later on, you know, they say, we can get rid of this because this was the 80s.
John,
I commend you for what you did.
John, we're not able to understand you right now, bud. Hopefully you've got a better. I know you're saying something important. We want to hear it. So try that last part one more.
Let me add this, Bernard, while he's trying to fix it.
Yeah.
Can you? The last part of that question is, we talk about Coach Parrish and Coach Griffin. You wouldn't have a Coach Parrish or Coach Griffin without a Coach Hicks, a Coach Johnson, or Coach Andrews, or Coach Cleveland, or Coach Tribute. And so we're talking about a team. And I watched Coach Parrish develop himself academic-wise to get his doctoral degree. When I left Southeastern, I didn't have my bachelor's degree, so I went back to Troy and got my bachelor's degree. Then I went and got my master's degree by watching people like Kerchal and then Coach Parrish. And so I have 4 wonderful kids. I think you asked me this last time, who are my heroes? They are my heroes, my kids, my family. My daughter, Timur, she worked for Facebook. She went to Colgate University and then got her master at Tuskegee and went on to University of Arkansas to get her doctoral degree there. And my son, Tanabe, he went to Tuskegee, aerospace engineer. And Timothy went to Oral Roberts University in Tulsa. And my youngest son, Tobias, they are everything to me. And so what we did at Northview helped develop us as men caring for their family, taking on what was given to us as mentor. And I pass it on to my family, my kids, in life situation. So that's the impact that Northview had on me.
Gentlemen, I could stay here and talk with y'all forever, but I want to be respectful of your time. I cannot thank you enough for sharing your stories. We've got number 34, free safety, John Kite. We've got number 40, cornerback, Tim Whaley. Number 7, Leon Morris at strong safety. And number 32 at cornerback, Kerchal Byrd. The Soul Patrol, the heart and soul of that 1981 4A Alabama State Championship team, all graduates in 1982. Gentlemen, thank you so much for sharing your oral history, your experiences, some fun times right there, some memorable times. So thank you all for joining me on Conversations with Cougars. It's been my honor to talk with y'all tonight.
Thanks for having us.
Y'all hang on for just a second. Guys, I've got more Cougars coming up over the next several weeks, so please try to keep coming back. Get in the Facebook group and you'll see the schedule. I'll keep putting it out there. We got a lot more Cougars to tell their stories coming up. So y'all be well, y'all hang in there, and we will catch you hopefully next Wednesday night at 7 o'clock. Gentlemen, hang on for just a second.